Jiho Park pushed his cleaning cart down the marble hallway of the 97th floor, his footsteps silent against the polished stone. The Velthari Intergalactic Trade Center never truly slept, but at 3 a.m, the building settled into a different rhythm. The day workers were gone, the executive suites fell quiet, and people like Jiho became invisible. He had been cleaning floors on alien worlds for 2 years now. It was simple work, honest work. Nobody asked questions about his past, and he preferred it that way. Back on Earth, he had worn expensive suits and argued cases worth billions of credits. Now he wore a gray uniform and mopped floors. Most days, he told himself, he was happier. Through the glass walls of Conference Room 7, Jiho could see the meeting that was running late into the night. A dozen aliens clustered around a massive table that seemed to float in midair. At the head sat Kyreth, the Velthari billionaire whose face appeared on financial broadcasts across 40 star systems. His crystalline exoskeleton caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. The Velthari looked like insects to human eyes, but they moved with surprising grace. Jiho had learned not to stare. He was the janitor. Janitors were furniture. Furniture didn't stare. He sprayed cleaning solution on the glass door and began wiping it down. The glass was so clear that he could hear every word from inside the room, even though they probably thought the door was soundproof. It wasn't, not completely, but nobody ever considered that the janitor might be listening. "The terms are generous," said one of the Rithani representatives. The Rithani looked like smooth river stones that had learned to walk. Their skin shifted through different shades of gray as they spoke. 400 billion credits for exclusive mining rights. "Your consortium will profit enormously." Kyreth's translator box buzzed. "The asteroid fields in question are rich in titanium and platinum. My analysts confirm the value. But these fields are in human-controlled space. Have we cleared this with Earth authorities?" "A formality," the Rithani assured him. "The contract is written in standard galactic law. It supersedes local regulations. This is how business has been conducted for 10,000 years across 47 species." Jiho's hand stopped moving. He looked at the papers spread across the table. The text was too small to read from outside, but he could see the format, the structure, the layout of clauses and subclauses. Something cold settled in his stomach. "My legal team has reviewed everything," Kyreth said. "They assure me this is standard. Completely standard," the Rithani agreed. "We have used this exact template in 23 other agreements. All parties have been satisfied." Jiho set down his cleaning cloth. His heart began to beat faster. 23 agreements. In human space. Using standard galactic law. He thought about the Luna incident. 3 years ago, a human corporation had used similar language to seize an entire mining operation from the Kritesh Empire. The Kritesh had thought they were protected by galactic law. They had been wrong. Human courts had ruled that local jurisdiction applied, and the contract language that seemed clear in galactic standard became a maze of loopholes when translated into Earth legal terminology. The Kritesh had lost everything. Kyreth reached for an electronic stylus. The signing ceremony was beginning. Assistants brought forward the digital contract on a hovering display. In 30 seconds, Kyreth would make the biggest mistake of his life. Jiho's hands were shaking. This wasn't his problem. He had left that world behind. He was a janitor now. He mopped floors and emptied trash bins and went home to his small apartment, where nobody expected anything from him. But he could see the clause structure from here. He could see how the paragraphs nested inside each other. He had written contracts like this. He had weaponized language like this. The stylus touched the screen. "Don't sign that contract." The words left Jiho's mouth before his brain could stop them. His voice was too loud in the quiet hallway. Every head in the conference room turned toward him. Kyreth's crystalline eyes fixed on the human janitor standing outside with a bottle of cleaning solution in one hand. The Rithani representative stiffened. Security guards began moving toward the door. "Sir, I apologize," one of Kyreth's assistants said. "I'll have him removed immediately." "Wait." Kyreth held up one glittering hand. His voice through the translator was calm but firm. "What did you say, human?" Jiho's throat was dry. Every instinct told him to apologize and walk away, to push his cart down the hall and forget what he had seen. But he looked at Kyreth's hand hovering over that contract, and he couldn't do it. "Don't sign it," Jiho said again. "That contract, it's a trap." The Rithani representative made a sound like grinding stones. This is absurd. Security, remove this person. No. Kyrith stood. He was 7 feet tall when he straightened to his full height. You interrupted a 400 billion credit deal. You had better have a good reason. Jiho swallowed hard. I'm a janitor. But I used to be a lawyer. On Earth, corporate contract law. And that document you're about to sign will destroy you. Destroy me? Kyrith's translator conveyed amusement. Please explain. The contract is written in standard galactic, but the mining operations are in human space. That means Earth courts have jurisdiction over disputes, and the language you're using, the way those clauses are structured, they translate into legal loopholes under human law. This is ridiculous, the Irathani said. Galactic law has governed commerce for millennia. Not in human space, Jiho said. His old training was coming back now, the words flowing more easily. We joined the galactic community 80 years ago. We're still using our own legal frameworks, and our frameworks evolved through thousands of years of people trying to cheat each other. We built systems specifically to catch this kind of thing. Kyrith was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to his legal team. Is this possible? The lead attorney, a Thoraxian with too many arms, hesitated. We reviewed the contract under galactic standard. We assumed that would be sufficient. You assumed? Kyrith repeated. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Jiho took a breath. 3 years ago, the Luna incident. The Kritesh Empire lost 2 trillion credits because they made the same assumption. Human legal language is different. It's more complex, more paranoid. We spent centuries learning how to hide traps in contracts. The Irathani representative was turning darker shades of gray. This human is wasting your time with conspiracy theories. But Kyrith was looking at Jiho now with an expression the human couldn't quite read. What is your name? Jiho Park. Come inside, Jiho Park. Show me these traps you speak of. The conference room door opened. Jiho left his cleaning cart in the hallway and stepped into a world he thought he had left behind forever. The Irathani representatives watched him with cold eyes. Kyrith's legal team looked nervous. And on the table, the unsigned contract waited like a loaded weapon. Jiho approached the hovering display and began to read. The other aliens in the room might have thought he was just a janitor, but his mind was already working, parsing clauses and finding the poison hidden in seemingly innocent words. Here, he said, pointing to paragraph 17, and here. And this section cross-references with the dispute resolution clause in a way that would give them control over derivative resources under Earth law. Kyrith leaned closer. Explain. As Jiho began to break down the contract piece by piece, he realized that his quiet life as a janitor was over. He had chosen to speak up. He had chosen to get involved, and somewhere in his chest, beneath the fear and uncertainty, he felt something he hadn't felt in 2 years. He felt alive. Kyrith stared at the janitor standing before his conference table. The human was small compared to most species in the room, wearing a uniform that smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals, but his eyes were sharp as he studied the contract on the display screen. You have 30 seconds to convince me you're not insane, Kyrith said. Then security will escort you out. Jiho pointed at a section of text. Paragraph 17, subsection 4. It says all derivative resources found during mining operations become property of the operating company. In galactic standard, that seems fair. But in Earth legal language, derivative resources includes water, rare isotopes, salvageable technology, and even information. Basically anything found in those asteroids. The Irathani representative shifted colors rapidly. That is the standard interpretation across all civilized species. Not on Earth, Jiho said. On Earth, we have 3,000 years of court cases defining what derivative means. And the definition keeps expanding. Right now, if you find an old alien ship buried in an asteroid, the metal is a derivative resource. The computer systems are derivative resources. Even the historical data about who built it counts as a derivative resource. One of Kyrith's legal advisors spoke up. But surely galactic law would prevent such an interpretation. Jiho shook his head. That's the second trap. Look at paragraph 42. The dispute resolution clause. It says all conflicts will be resolved through mandatory arbitration on a neutral station. Sounds fair, right? But under Earth law, mandatory arbitration means you can never take this case to a real court, and the neutral station mentioned here is owned by a Irathani subsidiary. The room went very quiet. Kyrith turned to the Irathani representatives. Is this true? The human is using fear tactics, the Irathani said smoothly. This contract template has been used successfully across the galaxy. We have excellent relationships with all our partners. How many of those partners are human? Jiho asked. The Irathani didn't answer. Jiho pulled out his personal tablet from his pocket. His hands were steadier now that he was doing what he used to do best. I can show you the Luna incident case files. The Kritesh thought they had a solid contract too. They lost everything because they didn't understand how human courts interpret contract language. Kyrith held out one crystalline hand. Show me. Jiho transferred the files to the conference room display. Court documents appeared. Thousands of pages of legal arguments and rulings. The Kritesh had mining rights to Luna's far side. The contract looked perfect in galactic standard. But a human corporation found a loophole. They argued that ice deposits counted as derivative resources. Then they argued that the historical Apollo landing sites counted as archaeological derivative resources. Within 6 months, they owned everything. The Thoraxian legal advisor studied the documents with several eyes. This is actually what happened? Yes. The Kritesh appealed to the Galactic Commerce Council. The council said it was an internal human legal matter. The Kritesh lost 2 trillion credits. Kyrith was very still. When Velthari were thinking hard, their crystalline bodies stopped moving entirely. He looked like a statue made of rainbow glass. Why would you tell me this? He finally asked. You're a janitor. This isn't your concern. Jiho looked at the floor. I left corporate law because I was tired of seeing people get hurt by contracts they didn't understand. I thought I could escape it by coming out here. But when I saw you about to sign this, I couldn't just walk away. The Irathani representative was changing colors faster now, cycling through shades of gray and black. This is all speculation. Even if Earth courts are unpredictable, we have done nothing wrong. Our contract is legal. Legal and fair are different things, Jiho said quietly. Your contract is designed to look fair in galactic standard while being devastating in Earth legal language. That's not an accident. That's a weapon. Before anyone could respond, the conference room door opened. A tall man in a kitchen uniform walked in carrying a tray of drinks. He was older than Jiho, with gray in his hair and laugh lines around his eyes. Sorry to interrupt, the man said in Korean, but I heard Jiho was up here and I thought you might need backup. Jiho blinked. Doyen, what are you doing? Doyen Choi set down the tray and switched to Standard Galactic. I work in the cafeteria downstairs, and I've known Jiho for 2 years. Before he came here, he was one of the best contract lawyers on Earth. If he says that contract is dangerous, you should listen. More service workers. The Irathani muttered. This is becoming absurd. But Kyrith was looking at Jiho with new interest. One of the best, he says. What firm did you work for? Jiho hesitated. Kim and Associates. Soul Branch. I handled interplanetary merger agreements. The Thoraxian legal advisor made a clicking sound. Kim and Associates? They represented Earth in the Mars sovereignty negotiations. Those contracts are studied in law schools across 40 systems. Jiho wrote most of those contracts, Doyen said proudly. He also handled the Titan Gas Rights Agreement and the Europa Water Accords. Kyrith turned back to the Irathani. It seems our janitor has impressive credentials. I'm postponing this signing. You can't be serious, the Irathani said. We have a deal. We have nothing until I sign. And I will not sign until I understand exactly what I'm agreeing to. Kyrith's translator made his words sound final. This meeting is over. The Irathani representatives gathered their materials with jerky, angry movements. As they left, one of them paused near Jiho. You have made a very powerful enemy today, human. After they were gone, Kyrith sat down heavily. His crystalline body clinked against the chair. Tell me the truth. How bad is it? Jiho pulled up a chair. His cleaning cart was still sitting in the hallway, forgotten. It's bad. If you had signed this, they would have owned not just the mining rights, but everything in those asteroid fields. Any discoveries, any technology, any resources. And you couldn't have fought it because the arbitration clause would have kept you out of real courts. And the 23 other companies they mentioned? Probably all caught in similar traps. The Irathani have been quietly building a legal empire in human space. No weapons, no wars. Just contracts that look fair but aren't. Kyrith was quiet for a long moment. My people value honor. When we make agreements, we trust that both sides mean what they say. The idea of hiding traps in contract language is alien to us. That's why they're targeting non-human companies, Jiho said. They know you won't see it coming. Doyen was pouring drinks for everyone. He handed one to Jiho. So what happens now? Kyrith stood and walked to the window. Velthari Prime spread out below them, a city of crystal towers and glowing lights. Now I need someone who understands both galactic law and human law. Someone who can help me navigate this situation. He turned to face Jiho. How much do janitors make in this building? Not much, Jiho admitted. How would you like to make considerably more as my legal consultant? Jiho felt his heart skip. I don't know if I can go back to that world. You never left it, Doyen said gently. You just changed uniforms. Kyrith approached Jiho. Up close, the Velthari billionaire was even more impressive, his body made of thousands of tiny crystal facets that caught and reflected light. I need those mining operations. Not for profit, though profit matters. I need them to fund medical research. There's a plague affecting 3 of our colony worlds. The only cure requires rare isotopes that those asteroids contain. A plague? Jiho asked. My youngest daughter is sick, along with 40,000 others. Kyrith's voice was soft. I cannot let the Arthani steal this from us. But I also cannot fight a legal war I don't understand. Jiho looked at his cleaning uniform. He thought about the last 2 years of his life, pushing a cart through empty hallways and pretending he was happy. He thought about the skills he had buried, the knowledge he had tried to forget. Then he thought about Kyrith's daughter and 40,000 sick people who needed help. Okay, he said. I'll do it. But I need full access to all contract documents and your legal databases. Done. And I need to contact Ambassador Hyun Kim at the Earth Embassy. We'll need human legal expertise for this. Whatever you need. Jiho stood up and looked at Doyen. I guess I'm not a janitor anymore. Doyen grinned. You never were. You were just pretending. As the sun began to rise over Velthari Prime, Jiho sat down at the conference table and began to work. The contract glowed on the display before him, and he started breaking it apart line by line, finding every trap and hidden clause. Somewhere out there, the Arthani were planning their next move. But for the first time in years, Jiho felt like himself again. Not running away, not hiding, just doing what he did best, protecting people from those who would use words as weapons. Jiho had been awake for 16 hours straight. His eyes burned as he scrolled through page after page of legal text, but he couldn't stop now. Every time he thought he had found the worst of it, another layer of deception revealed itself. This is brilliant, he muttered, and then felt sick for saying it. The Arthani contract was a masterpiece of predatory legal engineering. Whoever had written it understood both galactic law and human law perfectly. They had woven the two systems together in a way that made the contract look safe, while making it absolutely deadly. Kyrith entered the conference room carrying 2 cups of something hot. He placed one in front of Jiho. Doyen said this is coffee. He said humans run on it. Jiho took the cup gratefully. Thank you. And yes, we do. What have you found? Jiho pulled up a display showing the contract structure. It's worse than I thought. Much worse. Look at this section here about derivative resources. It connects to this clause about operational authority, and both of them feed into this dispute resolution framework. Kyrith studied the highlighted text. I don't see the problem. That's because you're reading it in Galactic Standard. Watch what happens when I apply Earth legal interpretation. Jiho typed commands and the text began to transform, showing how each phrase would be understood by a human court. See? Derivative resources becomes anything discovered during operations. Operational authority becomes complete control over the territory. And dispute resolution becomes you can never sue us. The Velthari's crystalline body seemed to dim. All of that from those 3 clauses? Those 3 clauses plus 17 others scattered throughout the document. They're designed to work together. Separately, they look innocent. Combined, they give the Arthani total control. Kyrith sat down slowly. How many other companies have signed contracts like this? According to my research, 23 in the last 5 years. All of them operating in human-controlled space. All of them using this same template. Why hasn't anyone noticed before now? Jiho rubbed his tired eyes. Because most of those companies haven't had disputes yet. The Arthani are patient. They sign these contracts and wait. When someone finally finds something valuable, that's when they spring the trap. By then it's too late. The door opened and a tall woman in diplomatic attire entered. She had sharp features and carried herself with the confidence of someone used to being in charge. Ambassador Hyun Kim, she said, extending her hand to Jiho. I received your message. This better be worth pulling me out of trade negotiations. Jiho shook her hand and quickly explained the situation. Ambassador Hyun Kim's expression grew darker as he talked. "Show me the contract," she demanded. For the next hour, Jiho and the ambassador went through the document together. She was good, he realized. Very good. She caught implications that he had missed and pointed out additional legal landmines hidden in the financial clauses. "This is an act of economic warfare," she said finally. "The Earthani are using our own legal system as a weapon against galactic corporations. Can you help us?" Kareth asked. "I can confirm that Jiho's analysis is correct. If you had signed this, you would have lost everything." She paused. "But there's something you should know. This isn't just about you. If the Earthani have been doing this systematically, they could be building towards something much larger." "Like what?" Jiho asked. "Control of 40% of human space without firing a shot. If they own the mining rights, the derivative resources, and the operational authority in enough sectors, they effectively control those regions. And because it's all done through legal contracts, there's nothing Earth's military can do about it." The room fell silent. Jiho felt cold despite the coffee warming his hands. Kareth stood and walked to the window. Why would they do this? The Earthani are wealthy. They have their own territories. Maybe they want more, Ambassador Hyun Kim said. Or maybe they're doing this for someone else. Either way, we need to stop it. Before anyone could respond, the lights in the conference room flickered. Jiho looked up, startled. Then his tablet started beeping urgently. "Someone's trying to access the building's network," he said. "They're targeting this room specifically." Ambassador Hyun Kim pulled out her own device. "They're trying to delete your analysis." "I'm seeing multiple intrusion attempts." "The Rithani," Kareth said. "They know we're investigating." Jiho's fingers flew across his tablet. "I'm uploading everything to a secure server. If they want to destroy the evidence, they'll have to do it physically." As if in response, the conference room door burst open. 3 figures in dark suits entered, moving with purpose. They weren't security guards. They looked like soldiers. "Step away from the computers," one of them said. Their translator marked them as Rithani, though they looked different from the business representatives who had been here earlier. More dangerous. Ambassador Hyun Kim stepped forward. "This is a diplomatic incident. I'm an Earth ambassador and I demand you leave immediately." "We're here to retrieve stolen property," the Arthani operative said. "Confidential contract documents that were taken without authorization." "Nothing was stolen," Kareth said. His voice was calm, but his body was tense. "Those documents were provided to me as part of a business negotiation. The negotiation is over. The documents must be returned." Jiho looked at his tablet. The upload was only 60% complete. He needed more time. "The analysis I performed is my own work," he said, trying to keep the Earthani talking. "You can't claim ownership of my thoughts. Any analysis of our proprietary contract language belongs to us. Hand over your devices." The Earthani operatives moved closer. One of them reached for Jiho's tablet. Then Doyen appeared in the doorway behind them, pushing a cleaning cart. "Oh, excuse me," he said cheerfully in Galactic Standard. "I need to clean this conference room." "Not now," the Earthani operative snapped. "But it's on my schedule. The building manager gets very upset if I fall behind." Doyen pushed the cart forward, forcing the operatives to move aside. In that moment of confusion, Jiho saw the upload hit 100%. He tapped a command and the tablet's screen went dark. "Too late," he said. "Everything's already uploaded to a secure server. You can take the tablet if you want, but the data is safe." The Rithani operative's skin turned almost black with anger. "Where is the server?" "Earth Embassy," Ambassador Hyun Kim said with a cold smile. "Diplomatic territory. You can't touch it." For a long moment, no one moved. Then the lead Arthani operative spoke into a communicator in their own language. Jiho's translator caught fragments. "Mission failed and information secured." The operatives left without another word. As soon as they were gone, Doyen locked the conference room door. "That was too close," he said, abandoning his cheerful act. Jiho's hands were shaking now that the danger had passed. "How did you know to come here?" "I've been watching the building security feeds. When I saw those Rithani enter, I knew they weren't here for a friendly chat." Doyen grinned. "Sometimes it helps to be invisible. Security guards talk around janitors like we're not even there. I hear everything." Ambassador Hyun Kim was already on her communicator. "I'm calling for a security detail. The Rithani just escalated this from a contract dispute to active espionage." Kareth looked at Jiho. "Are you all right?" I'm fine. Just shaken. Jiho took a breath. But now we know for certain that we're right. They wouldn't have tried to destroy the evidence if they weren't guilty. What's our next move? Kirith asked. Jiho thought about the 23 other companies caught in Arthani contracts. He thought about the systematic legal warfare being waged in human space. He thought about how he had walked away from corporate law because he was tired of seeing the powerful exploit the weak. We fight back, he said, but not just for you. We need to help everyone who signed one of these contracts, and we need to make sure the Arthani can't do this to anyone else. Ambassador Hyun Kim nodded. Agreed, but you'll need protection. The Arthani have shown they're willing to use force. I can provide security, Kirith said, and legal resources. Whatever you need, Doyen raised his hand, and I can keep watching the building. You'd be surprised what people say around the cleaning staff. Jiho looked at his team. A billionaire alien, a human ambassador, and a cafeteria worker. It wasn't what he had expected when he woke up yesterday morning to mop floors. But as he pulled up the list of companies caught in Arthani contracts, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not just purpose, but hope. Maybe he could make a difference. Maybe his skills could be used to help people instead of hurt them. All right, he said. Let's get to work. We have 23 companies to save and a legal war to win. Outside the window, the sun was setting over Velthari Prime. The city's crystal towers glowed in the fading light. And somewhere in that city, the Arthani were planning their next move. But Jiho was ready for them. The conference room had become Jiho's new home. Papers and datapads covered every surface. Three-dimensional displays showed contract structures floating in the air like complex spiderwebs. He had barely slept in 3 days. Kirith entered with food. Doyen says you haven't eaten in 8 hours. He threatened to come up here himself if I didn't bring this. Jiho accepted the plate without looking up from his work. I'm close to something. I can feel it. Close to what? A solution. A way to fight back that doesn't involve years of lawsuits. Jiho highlighted a section of text on his display. Look at this. The Arthani contracts all have the same weakness. They rely on galactic law being simple and straightforward. But what if we created something better? Kirith studied the display. Better how? A hybrid contract system. One that combines galactic honor-based frameworks with human legal precision. Something that's transparent in both systems and can't be twisted by either one. Ambassador Hyun Kim had entered quietly during the conversation. That's ambitious. It would require rewriting the fundamental approach to interspecies commerce. Maybe it's time for that, Jiho said. He pulled up a new document. Think about it. Humans have only been in space for 80 years. We're still using legal systems designed for Earth. Other species are using systems designed thousands of years ago. Nobody thought about what happens when these systems interact. Until the Arthani weaponized the gap, Ambassador Hyun Kim said. Exactly, but we can close that gap. We can create contracts that are clear and fair in every legal system. Kirith sat down. Show me what you have in mind. For the next hour, Jiho walked them through his proposal. A new type of contract that included parallel clauses in both Galactic Standard and Earth legal language. Every term would be defined in both systems. Every clause would be transparent in both frameworks. And most importantly, disputes would be handled by courts that understood both legal traditions. This is revolutionary, Ambassador Hyun Kim said. If it works, it could change how all galactic commerce operates. If it works, Jiho emphasized. I need help to make this real. We need legal experts from multiple species. We need to test every clause against every possible interpretation. Doyen appeared in the doorway. You have visitors. A lot of them. Before Jiho could ask what he meant, a group of aliens entered the conference room. There were Thoraxians, Kritesh Velthari, and species Jiho didn't recognize. All of them looked worried. We heard what you discovered about the Arthani contracts, one of the Kritesh said. Their rocky skin was pale with stress. Our company signed an agreement 6 months ago. We're beginning to think it was a mistake. Another voice spoke up, a Thoraxian with too many eyes. We signed 3 years ago. We haven't had problems yet, but after hearing about your analysis, we're concerned. Soon the room was full of representatives from different companies, all with similar stories. They had signed contracts with the Arthani. They had thought everything was fair. Now they were terrified. Jiho looked at Kirith, who nodded. We'll help all of you. But I need to see your contracts first. The next week was chaos. Jiho barely left the conference room as contract after contract arrived for analysis. Each one was unique in its details but followed the same predatory pattern. The Irthani had been very busy. Doyen brought food and coffee at regular intervals. "You're going to burn out," he warned. "I can't stop now. These people need help. You can't help anyone if you collapse." Doyen set down a tray. "Eat, sleep, then get back to work." In that order. Jiho wanted to argue, but his friend was right. He forced himself to eat and then slept for 4 hours in a side office. When he woke, he found Kyreth had hired 3 more legal analysts to help with the workload. "You're not doing this alone anymore," the Velthari said. Together, they began building case files for each company. They documented every trap, every loophole, every way the Arthani could exploit the contracts. And alongside that work, Jiho continued developing his hybrid contract system. 2 weeks after the initial discovery, a formal message arrived from the Arthani syndicate. It was addressed to Kyreth and copied to Jiho. "They're threatening to sue us for interference in lawful commerce," Ambassador Hyun Kim said after reading it. Kyreth's crystalline body flashed with anger. "Let them try. We have evidence of their predatory practices." "It's not about winning," Jiho said quietly. "It's about intimidation. They want to scare us into backing down." "Will it work?" Doyen asked. Jiho thought about his old life as a corporate lawyer. He had seen this tactic before. Big companies threatening legal action to crush smaller opponents, making the fight so expensive and time-consuming that people gave up. "Not this time," he said. "We have something they don't." "What's that?" "We have the truth. And we have each other." Jiho pulled up his hybrid contract system. "This is ready. I want to present it as Kyreth's counteroffer to the Irthani." Kyreth studied the new contract. It was longer than the original, but every clause was clear and transparent. There were no hidden traps, no ambiguous language. Everything that seemed fair in Galactic Standard was actually fair in human law too. "This is what you've been working on," Kyreth said with something like wonder in his voice. "It's called the Park Protocol," Ambassador Hyun Kim said, reading over his shoulder. "Named after you, Jiho." "I didn't name it that." "I did," Kyreth said. "If this works, your name should be attached to it. You created something that could protect every company doing business in human space." Jiho felt his face grow warm. "It still needs testing. And approval from the Galactic Commerce Council. Then we'll get that approval. But first we present this to the Irthani." The meeting was arranged for the following week. The Irthani sent the same representatives who had tried to sign the original deal, plus several lawyers and a representative from their corporate security division. "We're here to accept your apology and sign the original contract," the lead Arthani said. "You've wasted enough of our time." Kyreth's translator conveyed cold amusement. "I'm not apologizing. And I'm not signing your contract. Instead, I'm offering you this." He displayed the Park Protocol on the conference room screens. The Arthani studied it in silence. Jiho watched their skin change colors as they read, cycling through shades that suggested confusion and then anger. "This is unacceptable," one of them finally said. "This level of detail is unnecessary. Galactic Standard has worked for thousands of years." "Galactic Standard doesn't account for human legal systems," Jiho said. "This does. Every clause is transparent in both frameworks. No hidden traps, no ambiguous language, just fair business terms. You're calling our contract unfair? I'm saying your contract was designed to look fair while being predatory. This contract actually is fair." The Irthani representatives huddled together, speaking in their own language without using translators. Jiho couldn't understand the words, but their body language was clear. They were furious. "We reject this proposal," the lead Arthani said finally. "We will not sign any contract that limits our operational flexibility." "Then we have nothing further to discuss," Kyreth said. "I'll find other partners for my mining operations. You're making a mistake. We can make things very difficult for you." "You already tried that," Ambassador Hyun Kim said. "We have evidence of your operatives attempting to destroy legal documents. That's corporate espionage. I've filed a formal complaint with the Galactic Commerce Council." The Arthani stood abruptly. "This isn't over." After they left, the room was quiet for a long moment. "Did we just make them enemies for life?" Doyen asked. "Probably," Jiho admitted. "But it was worth it." Kyreth placed one crystalline hand on Jiho's shoulder. "What happens now?" "Now we spread the word. We show other companies what the Arthani have been doing, and we offer them an alternative." Jiho pulled up the Park Protocol on his tablet. "We show them there's a better way to do business. Over the next month, word of the park protocol spread through the galactic business community. Companies that had signed Arthani contracts began reaching out for help. Legal analysts from a dozen species asked to review Jiho's work. And slowly, something remarkable happened. The park protocol began to be adopted, first by companies doing business with Kyrith, then by others who saw the value in transparent, fair contracts. Jiho found himself invited to speak at trade conferences. His face appeared on financial broadcasts. The janitor who had stopped a 400 billion credit deal was now becoming famous. "I preferred being invisible," he told Doyen one evening. His friend laughed. "Too late for that now. You changed the game. Now everyone wants to know how you think." Jiho looked at the messages on his tablet. Requests for consultations, job offers, interview requests. His quiet life was definitely over. But when he thought about the companies he had helped, the predatory contracts he had prevented, the fairer system he was helping to build, he couldn't regret it. He had found his purpose again, not in serving the powerful but in protecting everyone else from them. And that was worth any amount of unwanted fame. 6 months had changed everything. Jiho stood in his new office on the 20th floor of the same building where he used to push a cleaning cart. Through the window he could see Velthari Prime spreading out below him, the crystal towers catching the morning light. His office door opened, and Doyen walked in carrying a stack of data pads. 17 new consultation requests this morning, and the Galactic Commerce Council confirmed your presentation slot for next week. Jiho turned from the window. "How many people are working here now?" 43. Legal analysts from 12 different species. "We had to rent 3 more floors." Doyen grinned. "Remember when it was just you and me? I remember when I was mopping these floors. We all remember that. The human who went from janitor to the most famous legal consultant in the galaxy in 6 months." Doyen set down the data pads. "The press still loves that story." Jiho picked up one of the pads. "What's this one?" "A corporation on Theta Station. They signed a Arthani contract 4 years ago, just now realizing they're trapped." Doyen's expression turned serious. "They're asking if we can help them void it. That's going to be difficult. 4 years means the Arthani have had time to establish operational control. But not impossible?" Jiho thought about it. "Not impossible. Just expensive and time-consuming. Tell them we'll review the contract, but they need to be prepared for a long fight." The business they had built together was thriving. The park protocol had been adopted by 40% of all new contracts involving human space. Companies were paying substantial fees for Jiho's team to review their agreements and convert them to the new standard. But it wasn't just about money. Every contract they reviewed was another company protected from predatory practices. Every conversion to the park protocol was a small victory against those who used legal language as a weapon. Ambassador Hyun Kim appeared in the doorway. "Are you ready for the bad news?" "Good morning to you too," Jiho said. She didn't smile. "The Arthani Syndicate has filed 17 separate lawsuits across 6 different jurisdictions. They're claiming that the park protocol violates their intellectual property rights." Jiho felt his stomach sink. "That's ridiculous. The protocol is completely original work. They're arguing that since you developed it while analyzing their contracts, it's derived from their proprietary legal frameworks. That's not how intellectual property works. It is if you argue it in the right courts." Ambassador Hyun Kim pulled up a display showing the various lawsuits. "They're being smart about this. They filed in jurisdictions where human legal concepts don't apply. Places where they think they can win." Doyen swore quietly in Korean. "They're trying to destroy everything we built." "Not destroy," Jiho said slowly. "Delay. Tie us up in legal battles so we can't help anyone else." He studied the lawsuits more carefully. The Arthani had chosen their battlegrounds well. Each court operated under different legal traditions. Defending against all 17 cases would require massive resources and years of time. "What do we do?" Doyen asked. Before Jiho could answer, Kyrith entered the office. The Velthari billionaire had to duck slightly to fit through the doorway. His crystalline body gleamed in the morning light. "I heard about the lawsuits," Kyrith said. "I'm providing funding for your legal defense. Whatever you need." "This could cost millions," Jiho warned. "The mining operation you saved me from signing away generates billions. Consider it an investment." Kyrith's translator conveyed warmth. "Besides, you're family now. My daughter's medical treatments are working. The rare isotopes from the asteroids made that possible. I owe you more than money can repay." Jiho felt emotion tighten his throat. Thank you. Jiho felt emotion tighten his throat. Thank you. Now tell me how we fight these lawsuits. They spent the morning developing strategy. It became clear that fighting each case separately would be exactly what the Earthani wanted. They needed a different approach. What if we don't fight? Jiho said suddenly. Everyone stared at him. Hear me out. The Earthani are expecting us to defend against each lawsuit individually. That would take years and drain our resources. But what if instead we go on offense? How? Ambassador Hyun Kim asked. Jiho pulled up a map showing all 23 companies that had signed Earthani contracts. We file a class action lawsuit on behalf of every company the Earthani have trapped. We argue that their entire business model is based on predatory legal practices, and we file it in Earth courts where we have the advantage. Ambassador Hyun Kim's eyes widened. That would be massive. The biggest interspecies legal battle in history. It would also force the Galactic Commerce Council to get involved. They can't ignore something that big. Kyrith was already pulling up financial projections. I can rally the other companies. Many of them have wanted to fight back but were afraid to do it alone. We're not alone anymore, Jiho said. That's the whole point. The next week was a whirlwind of preparation. Jiho's team worked around the clock building the case. Ambassador Hyun Kim coordinated with Earth's legal authorities. Kyrith brought together representatives from all 23 trapped companies, and then came the day of Jiho's presentation to the Galactic Commerce Council. The council chamber was enormous. Designed to accommodate hundreds of species, Jiho stood at the center, feeling very small under the curved ceiling that seemed to stretch to infinity. Around him, council members from 47 species watched and waited. He had prepared a speech. 3,000 words explaining the park protocol, documenting the Earthani's predatory practices, and proposing new standards for interspecies commerce. But as he looked at all those alien faces, he set aside his prepared remarks. 6 months ago I was a janitor, he said simply. I mopped floors in the Velthari Intergalactic Trade Center. Nobody saw me. Nobody cared about my opinions. I was invisible. The chamber was silent. Then one night I saw something wrong. A contract that looked fair but wasn't, and I had a choice. I could stay invisible, stay safe. Or I could speak up and risk everything. He pulled up a display showing the original Earthani contract next to the park protocol. This is why I spoke up. On the left you see contract language designed to deceive. Words that mean one thing in galactic standard and something completely different in human legal terminology. On the right you see transparency, clarity, fairness in both systems. A council member from the Kritesh Empire spoke. The Earthani argue that human legal systems are unnecessarily complex, that they add bureaucracy to simple transactions. They're right, Jiho said. Human legal systems are complex. Do you know why? Because we spent thousands of years learning not to trust each other. We built legal frameworks specifically to catch deception and bad faith. He walked around the chamber's center platform. Other species operate on honor and trust. That's beautiful. I admire it. But humans learned the hard way that not everyone deals in good faith. So we created systems to protect ourselves. And now that we're part of the galactic community, those systems can protect everyone. Another council member spoke, a Velthari elder. You propose making your park protocol the new standard for all commerce involving human space? I propose making transparency the standard. The park protocol is just one way to achieve that. But whatever system we use, it should be fair and clear in every legal framework that applies to the contract. The council members conferred among themselves. Jiho waited, trying to keep his breathing steady. Finally, the council chair spoke. We have reviewed your proposal and the evidence of Earthani predatory practices. The council finds merit in your approach. However, we cannot mandate that all species adopt human legal standards. Jiho's heart sank. But, the chair continued, we can recommend the park protocol as best practice for any contract involving multiple legal jurisdictions. We can also investigate the Earthani syndicate's business practices. If we find systematic fraud, there will be consequences. It wasn't everything Jiho had hoped for, but it was enough. As he left the council chamber, he found Doyen, Kyrith, and Ambassador Hyun Kim waiting. How did it go? Doyen asked. We didn't win completely, but we didn't lose either. That's politics, Ambassador Hyun Kim said. Change happens slowly, but you started something today that will keep growing. Over the following months, she was proven right. The council's investigation into the Earthani syndicate uncovered evidence of systematic fraud. The 17 lawsuits against Jiho were dismissed, and the park protocol continued to spread. 1 year after Jiho had shouted, "Don't sign that contract," in that conference room, he found himself teaching at the new Interspecies Legal Academy. His students came from dozens of species, all eager to learn how to navigate the complex intersection of different legal systems. As he stood at the front of the classroom, explaining the principles of transparent contract design, he noticed the janitor quietly cleaning in the back corner. The young man worked efficiently, trying to be invisible. After class ended, Jiho approached him. "What's your name?" The janitor looked startled. "Mino, sir." "Sorry, I didn't mean to disturb the class." "You didn't disturb anything." Jiho handed him a business card. "If you ever want to do something besides janitorial work, call me. I used to have your job. I know there's more to you than people see." Minho stared at the card, his eyes wide. As Jiho walked out of the academy, he thought about how far he had come. From corporate lawyer to janitor to legal consultant to teacher,